Hey there, creature wranglers, Misso Plays back again. And I hope you're still looking forward to seeing more from those animal husbandry buildings, because this week we are here on the beautiful Alpha Turnian 3 for a tour of my Space Ranch outpost. This one started off as a small experiment, and then it grew and grew till it became, you guessed it, max budget and a little bit beyond, because that is what I apparently like to do here. And if you're a regular viewer or a subscriber to the channel, then there's a good chance you will recognize a few of the areas of this outpost from some of my tutorial videos, because a few of the work in progress shots have made it from here into those. Now, when I started out with this particular outpost, the experiment I wanted to try was building around the ship's landing point without having to build a gigantic landing pad, because those towering structures can kind of ruin the view on some of the more picturesque planets like the one we have here. And if you remember our armillary indoors tutorial, here ironically is that armillary outdoors. I originally just set this up here to look cute for the video, but I ended up really liking it, so that has become its permanent home. And it just feels kind of right here as part of the scenery. One of the new things I was playing with this particular outpost was using those minerals and embedding them into the ground for landscaping purposes. And here I used some iron mostly and some lead to create like a little rock path that leads up to my main. And this building really is the main hub of this outpost. The space is kind of gigantic, so I've broken it off into different sections. The downstairs serves as the commercial area for this particular outpost. We've got a little cafe down here with the counters and the kitchen. And then a really cozy spot to drink your coffee from said cafe whilst looking out over that beautiful forest of purple trees. And please celebrate with me, this is the first outpost I've been able to use those tall shelving units. If you've been struggling to find a location you can use them, they fit great in these large animal husbandry buildings. They go up just to the top of those first floors and catwalks. I did use the rug trick to get them in here because some of the metal struts was obstructing the positioning I wanted. But yeah, we got some great floor-to-ceiling dividers for a bathroom. At last, it has happened. What a great day. And once again, those glass display shelves also make a great room divider. They're a nice height and a little easier to place than those tall opaque shelves. And I don't know about you, but when I think about ranches, I think Freestar Collective and Aquila City. So that is a vibe I was channeling a lot with this particular outpost. And I chose to really dig in deep with those warm wood tones again in the furniture for my cafe and also for the living quarters, as you will see in a moment. And keeping that theme going, we have the wood shelves here acting as a busing station as well as a room divider. And of course, you guessed it, another refreshment station. And helping us fund our life here on the ranch in this corner is our farm shop, which sells some resources like the spice and fiber that we are getting from our greenhouses and livestock, but also some knickknacks and settler clothing items, as well as some tools and souvenirs as well, because why not? You've flown all the way out to this corner of the galaxy, you may as well leave with some tchotchkes and soft toys too. Such as the green My Friend Will Be, because if you've ever wondered where these plushies are coming from as you have traveled the star systems, you will find out shortly because they're coming from here. But before we investigate that mystery, come on over to this outpost ship services. And since we're unable to designate a ship services technician to the station here, I went with a tried and true Fallout 76 illusion of crew by dressing up one of those display mannequins and setting him aside there. If you don't look too close, it's almost convincing. Only having the one crew station that we can use was a little limiting, especially when you're trying to go with that kind of more rustic Aquila City vibe. So I tried layering it up with some plants, wood furniture, and rustic looking knickknacks to kind of keep the feeling going, even though we're still working with that really white, clinical looking crew station. And I think it worked out okay. You can draw your own conclusions as to how successful I was with that. And then we got a little recreation area here for our crew and visitors alike. We got the ping pong, we got some darts. Because let's face it, no outpost is complete without an area where you can challenge your friends to feats of hand-eye coordination. And when you're not paddling with your friends, there's a little admin office there to keep track of all of the comings and goings at the outpost. Then we got some under the stairs storage, because there's only two things you can ever find under stairs, and that's somebody's junk or fuel for your nightmares. And we're kind of staying away from the nightmare fuel in this particular outpost. We're going to leave that to the abandoned drilling rigs and leave those stairs behind as we come upstairs to our crew quarters, which has this cozy little living area with a great view of the forest. We got some nice wood bunks with everyone's personal effects, and then like a little desk over here for people to do their journaling, eat some chunks. It's their time. It's not my business what they do here, but they can do it at that desk if they would like to. And some more seating areas. And if someone was to binge this channel and do a really dangerous drinking game in which someone could probably die of alcohol poisoning, it would be take a drink every time I feature an exercise station in an outpost. So here is this outpost's exercise station. We got the little weights. We got that punching bag because sometimes you just want to hit things. Everyone has an opportunity to let off some steam if they need to. We got a little dining area just for the crew because sometimes you want to eat a meal in peace and you do not want to be among your visitors and customers to do so. So we got a little camp stove and a drinking area, fridge, everything you would need to avoid the hoi polloi while you're on your lunch break. And you can see from this bird's eye view of downstairs just how big these animal husbandry buildings are. They are kind of huge, and I originally started building my player home on Serpentis 4 in one of these buildings because I thought it would be a nice idea, but it was just way too big for that, and that's why I went with the medium one for that particular outpost and the large one for here because we got a shop, a cafe, crew's quarters, all kinds of stuff all in that one building. Now back outside and following that rock bordered path, we're going to go on over to the main working part of this ranch. One of the reasons I chose this particular planet was so that I could farm polymer, and the idea was that I would have the polymer producing creatures wandering around this courtyard area, but you'll see why I moved them in a minute. They are kind of a nightmare, so I have replaced them with these little alligator dudes. They give me nutrient, which I don't really need, but they add to the ambience for these three working buildings. And the first one is my animal husbandry building, which I'm using for animal husbandry. I know, surprising, but it can be done. And this is the building that actually generates those creatures outside because they're not unwelcome in here. They really do add to it when they do come on inside. We got some research stations. We got the alien egg down here because the more you know about the creatures you're taking care of, the better you can take care of them. And the shelves, as you can see, are pretty well stocked with all the things you might need to take care of these different animals. We got some medicine, water, things like that, because they do need feeding as well as they might need medical care. And then we have this med station here for any kind of treatment plan that we might need should any of those animals get sick. And then I repurposed one of those weapon racks with the lights as a kind of cold storage area for sensitive materials. So that pretty much covers where we'll be doing any veterinarian care here on this ranch. This next building, however, is our main research center. And since we're not going to be treating any animals in here, we're taking out of those animal husbandry buildings and into one of those big, nice, round science labs. Again, with this one, I was trying to experiment with those room dividers because, as I've said in other videos, these spaces are really big. And with this one, I used the storage shelves and some cabinets, which actually fit nice and flush against the ceiling to create those dividers and break the space up into a few distinct research areas and even like a little sitting area here for all of our crew to take a break when, they're not furthering knowledge of alien species. And then over here on this window, I used some of those wall shelves to create a windowsill. We got some scientific samples up there along with some knickknacks. And that takes us to one of our more high-tech research areas. We got those consoles again for collecting data, some nicely decorated bookshelves, and more alien samples on the shelf. And then through here is my little storage nook that I have managed to build in between those room dividers and the crew station. This is a outpost that produces not only organic materials, but inorganic materials. We got some titanium and tungsten coming in, so you can see some of that in the crates there. And I put some wall shelves on these dividers, again, to make them look less like furniture and more like walls, since we are still trying to create more of an illusion of architecture than, actually having any architecture built inside. And the crew station, once again, has been decorated with some of those knickknacks, got some magazines and all that good stuff. And that would be our main research facility. So let's go see what's happening in some more of those workshops. And as we scoot along these concrete foundations, you probably notice a lot of these rugs on the drying racks. I use them to add that rustic feel to the ranch, but I also use them to protect my animal husbandry buildings. Putting those in front of the collection lockers has made it so that my crew can't shoot and destroy these buildings. I've had a few incidents where they would shoot those collection lockers while shooting aliens and break my supply chain. So that's an issue you're having. Furniture in front can help. We have a lot of organic materials coming into this outpost, so what are we going to be doing with them? Well, in this workshop, we are making those plushies. So in here, I put another one of those manufacturing machines, since this is where we are just churning these My Friend Wilby's and Friends out. Got a little desk station here with some calipers for quality control. One of the new models, a Galactica, lying there on the desk. And then over here, we got our pattern books, some pre-made ones that we've already finished, like the Parsec Pooch and the Cuddlesaur. We got supplies, of course, lots of different fabrics and glues and dyes. And I ended up feeling really happy with this particular workstation. This is our plushy sewing station where we're making star poles at the moment. I used one of the symbol game board mats as a cutting board. We got the scissors, some, I think it's membrane and maybe fabric, polymer fabric there to make it look like we're actually cutting and stitching those plushies at that station. And then over on the other side, we're making the My Friend Wilby's. Got some luxury fiber yarn there and a little pen in place of a crochet hook to make it look like the work is actually happening. And here we are collecting them, ready to send off across the galaxy. So yeah, when you're running into these plushies, where do they come from? Maybe, just maybe a ranch like these. We don't really know that they do, but we also don't know that they don't. And there is that courtyard again, which I think looks really cool with those weird little crocodile guys running around. I like them. They're not terribly invasive. And when they do get into buildings, they're low enough that they don't cause a lot of havoc. And this particular planet is incredibly life form rich, which is cool because it means, we've got a lot of things we can farm, but it also means we come under attack a lot, like a lot. So this is my armory and, medical tent. So when we're fighting all of those critters, we got the little medical supplies over there by the crew station. Got some workbenches, lots of guns ready to go on the wall, and then this repair station to make sure that all of our defenses are in tip-top condition all of the time. So the next time a pack of killer crabs come by, we're ready. We can take them. And then another shelf filled with supplies and all that good stuff. I used the shelves in part for the supplies, but also to bring that wood feeling back in here to keep it from looking too high-tech and sterile, and keep that kind of Freestar Collective, Wild Westy vibe going on, even in some of the more industrial parts of the outpost. So that is the animal husbandry buildings that have been inhabited. But we still have one more science lab to check out before we go look at the player home on this planet, and also check out that functioning polymer ranch that I mentioned earlier. So up these stairs, it's a little bit separate entry-wise to the rest of the ranch, but I thought architecturally it looked much more interesting having the entrance on this side of the building. And that brings us into a hydroponic lab hab being used as a hydroponic lab. It finally happened. And I built this sort of hydroponic station by using the medical tables around the planters that I put in the center, and then built the pillars that went from the floor to the ceiling out of some of those display stands. And it makes it look more contained in here and like it's part of some kind of scientific center, with all the nutrients and water being fed to it. more so than just a decorative plant in the dirt. Because we don't have any equipment really we can use for the hydroponic labs that the game has given us. So that was how I built my own in this particular outpost. We've got the whiteboard and a desk here then, for all the research notes, experiments, and, things we're learning as we're growing these plants out here on a already, frankly, pretty lush planet. And it has a great view, too, from that desk of the rest of the outpost. Then there's a second hydroponic station, as you can see just over here, which is the medical table again, walling in that planter along with, some of those office dividers, and give the impression that something a bit more high-tech is going on than, is going on in your grandma's house, perhaps. And then we've also got, a little bit of junk cluttering it up to make it look more lived in. And of course, because science is hard work, we've got another refreshment center with some, I think, quite pleasantly arranged packets of tea there. I love working with those because they're just so shiny and little. They're one of my favorite junk items to play with in this game because I just think they're neat. So moving on from the working part of the outpost, let's take a look at my captain's player home. For this one, I used a glitching technique I figured out using the foundations of the animal husbandry buildings to create a balcony there by removing the stairs from one of the airlocks. And I'll cover that further in a future video. And also you notice that the pillar is missing from that central hab. That was a happy little accident, and one that really allowed me to do some fun stuff with this particular building, as we'll see in a second. But right now we're going to go inside, check out those living quarters. You might recognize the main room from the decorating with junk tutorial video. And I replaced the kitchen from that video with this galley kitchen that is built in one of the walkway pieces. And I use those walkway pieces quite often to build the bathrooms, but there's a lot of space in there, as you can see, so you can even build a really nice kitchen in there. And since this is just like one person living in here off and on, I felt like it was a good size for that. We got the dining area, the bookshelf that we decorated together in that one tutorial, and a drink station with coffee. I'm more of a tea person myself, but my captain, maybe she's more of a bean water kind of girl, who knows. And I like this space. It's, as I talked about before, it's got a nice amount of junk in it. It looks lived in and cozy. And honestly, this feels more natural to me than the fancier pad that I built over on Hyla 2. Like, this seems to suit my girl more than the penthouse lifestyle. So now we're going to go through the airlock to the balcony. I'm hoping one day these doors will glitch out and stay open forever, but we're not got that lucky just yet. The balcony, not terribly big, but there's just enough room for like a little seating area. So we got this kind of deck chair situation out here, drink station again. And, you're not going to do a lot out here. Maybe read a book and check out the view. It's got a nice view of the outpost and also the planet. Like, I really love this biome a lot. Those tall, purple, kind of redwood-looking trees with the mountains is just gorgeous. My main goal with this particular player home was to keep it simple and stay away from that big, flashy mansion vibe like I built on Hyla 2. So it's just got the one hab for the main living quarters, and we have like the bathroom, shower area down here in a sort of separate part of the building. Again, I put it in those walkway pieces, but because the pillar had glitched out underneath that main hab, I was able to fit quite a lot underneath the main building, which looks architecturally cool from the outside, but gave me a lot more space to play with here on the inside too. I used the hexagonal weapon racks to create these wall pieces. They look a little bit similar to some of the ones you find in the bathrooms that are built in the game. I tried creating a shower unit using some of the boost pack stands and some manufactured components there. And the sink, as you can see, is a little bit lower. I was able to get it into one of those paintings. It's like the long, narrow one that looks like a painted canvas. I couldn't get it to sit on any of the other wall decor, but I could get it to sit in that one. And putting it there allowed me to move it up and down. Again, it's still a little bit limiting in what you can do with it, perhaps aesthetically, but it does give you an option if you're getting tired of having your sinks up by your armpits all of the time, as I know I am. And of course, there's the toilet. We got supplies, a little stool down there being used as a supply shelf for the shower area. And that's pretty much it for this bathroom. It's quite a bit bigger and more fleshed out than some of the other ones they've done, so I was pretty happy with it. It's a nice example of what you can do if you add a few more walkway pieces to those walkway bathroom builds that you might be doing on your own outposts. Now we're going to take a walk quite a ways away from that player home and also the main outpost to check out the Polymer Ranch part of this build. And when I first started building these outposts, I wanted to have these polymer creatures up in the main part that we saw earlier. But the creatures that give us polymer are, they're adorable, but they're dickheads. They get into everything. They were climbing into buildings that weren't theirs. They were aggroing my crew. They were knocking things everywhere. They're like Asbos on legs. So they got their own little ranchy part down here in a valley all to themselves. There's nothing to see in those buildings, obviously, because it would just get wrecked. But it's still, I mean, it looks nice. I like the way these buildings are on their own. I like visiting these bug-eyed nightmare creatures. And if you find yourself running out of polymer regularly, then this is a good planet to farm it on. They produce a lot. And this is Alpha Turnian 3, as I mentioned before, so maybe check this out if that is one of the resources that's on your radar. This is one of the few outposts that started out just for resource gathering at the beginning, but grew into something much bigger, as you can see. So if you stuck it through to the end of this video, thank you so much, because it was a lengthy one. And as always, if you found anything here in any way useful or entertaining, please drop me a like and subscribe. And I'll be back again next week with more building tips and outpost tours. So till then, bye!